Should we just get going? So,
Yes.
are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready, Gary? Okay. Are you ready? Okay, you ready?
I thought it was on the phone, so Josh really kindly gave me some extra time to wash my hair.
Are you ready?
Yeah, ready as all everybody.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Well, everybody, welcome to a very different episode of Josh Langley Gets to Know. This time, I'm in the hot seat. I'm not putting anyone else in the hot seat this time. I've got a fantastic fellow kids author, Kate Searle, and she wants to know everything about school visits, school incursions, virtual visits, all that sort of stuff. So she is going to interrogate me. Now, as a disclaimer, I'm going to share the stuff that I know that's worked for me, plus what I've seen work for everyone else, but everyone is different and there might be different variations on a theme. So, Kate, thank you so much for being on my show. How are you going?
Good, thanks, Josh. Thanks so much for having me. This is so wonderful to be here.
Yes. So, fire away. What do you want to know?
Yeah, great. So one of the first things I'd love to know is with school visits, do you book them directly yourself by contacting schools, or do you go through an agent? And is that a concept that exists in Western Australia?
Okay. Yes, yes, and yes. Okay. Firstly, let's look at the agencies. Okay. Yes, there are agencies in WA, namely Paperbird Books is the biggest one. So, Paperbird Books, best little children's bookshop in Fremantle ever.
Yes. Yeah.
So they have got their own speakers agency. And so Holly is the lady behind that. So she runs everything there and she contacts schools and stuff like that. So if you get on that list, then what happens is that Holly will then contact you, say if I had an expression of interest from a school, and then you liaise with Holly, and then Holly will put you in contact with the school, and then you work out the finer details from there. And but a lot of school visits happen also by websites and lists. So instead of an agency, what will happen is there's a like on the Writing WA website, there's a literati page. So it's a list of all the authors and illustrators, and then a school or a library will go through that list and go, okay, I'm looking for someone who's talking about science. I want to look at someone who's talking about mental health or something like that. So get on the WA literati page. Also, the CBCA WA, so the Children's Book Council of Australia WA page, they've got their own list of authors and illustrators on there. So that's a resource that a teacher librarian would go and go, okay, well, like I'm looking for someone for book week, who's really hot at the moment, who's really great. And then they'll go through that list and they'll book you directly from that list. Okay. So it's about getting on as many lists as possible and going through the agencies. But also it's a thing over time. The more you're in the business, the more schools and librarians hear about you through word of mouth, then they contact you directly. Okay.
Okay, awesome. And so do you recommend for authors, get on those lists, which is really good to know those lists exist? And also would you ever independently kind of reach out to schools?
Yeah. Yep. In the early days when I first started, I did that. Because I didn't know how the system worked. And I first started doing book tours through the Margaret River Readers and Writers Festival back in 2016. And so that was my big, we're going to drop you in the middle of doing, I think it was like 30 schools in 2 weeks. And like, oh, I've never done that before. And so after that, I went, okay, I really enjoyed this. This is a great way of getting the message out for my books. And so what I used to do was I would go do, like, say, a tour of Albany, and I would actually write a letter on the computer, write a letter and send a letter to all the primary schools in Albany. And I would get a couple of bookings from that. I'd say, look, touring Albany for this period of time, this is what it's going to cost, this is what I talk about, yada, yada, yada. Do you want to book me? And I did that. I did Kalgoorlie, I did Geraldton that way as well. Because I live in the regions. Whereabouts are you, UK?
They're in Queenslap.
Okay.
Down in Queenslap, down behind Dunsborough.
Oh, okay, beautiful part of the world there. Yeah, so I would just say I'm going to be in that location and then send out the letter. The letter actually worked better than an email, because emails, usually you only get the admin at whatever primary school, and it has to go past the gatekeeper of the person who works in admin, and either it goes to junk or the admin goes, I don't know who to send it to or whatever. So physical letters always work really well. I know a lot of people still use them and like would go, I'm going to be in this area. Let's talk. So that's a good way of doing it, actually. If
That's a
it's in a book,
fantastic idea. And I love the idea of, because one of the things, can get overwhelming. You don't know sort of what approach to start with. So I love the idea of picking an area or a town and just focusing one by one to
Yep.
kind of help, focus, and then do your research of what, schools are in that town.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's great. I love that, the hub approach. And you just raised two really good points that I'd love to ask you questions on. One is if you could talk about the content, or like, do you have a sort of suggested approach to the school visit? Would you say, I'm going to do a book reading and then an activity, or could you talk about that?
Yep. I'll give you the background of how I first started it, because when I was invited to do the Market River Readers and Writers Festival and to do the tour of the schools, luckily my neighbour was a school teacher, a primary school teacher. And so she was savvy. She said, okay, because I've got no idea what I'm going to do here. And she said, okay, kids are really smart these days. They get bored really quickly. So you need to really engage with them and entertain them on multiple different levels. And so what I ended up doing was I created a interactive presentation called my Being You Was Enough presentation, where I'd taken screenshots from the double page spreads from my books, turned them into JPEGs and put them in a PowerPoint presentation. So I had a PowerPoint presentation with screenshots from in my books, but the screenshots were conversation starters. Okay. So what I'll do is I would start off my presentation with a story or an anecdote. Okay. And usually I talk about where I live, because I actually live near Gnomesville. Have you heard,
I
of
love
Gnomesville?
Gnomesville. I've been there multiple times. I love Gnomesville. My kids love it. Absolutely
Well,
love it.
I always, because I'm
Beautiful
actually
part of the
really,
world as well.
because I'm actually really short. I'm only about 5'2". So I talk to the kids about how I am short, and I've sort of lived near Gnomesville, so it's really appropriate that I live. But mind you, some of the
I
little
would love
tiny,
that. I'd love to hear that.
some of the tiny kids got no idea what a gnome is, so you have to explain what a gnome is. So I tell a story, anecdote first, and then I talk about how I've written these books for myself, and then so I'm getting the kids engaged first by talking to them. And then I have the PowerPoint presentation. I talk about why I wrote the books and a little bit about myself and about how I got to be a writer. And then I talk about a little bit about writing books, how long it takes to write a book. I draw the illustrations, put the text together, and it comes out, goes to the printers, and we've got to edit it and all that sort of stuff. And then I then kick off and I bring in the slides of the books, and I have a conversation about the actual topics of each book. Like, it could be about making mistakes, it could be about failing, it could be about self-acceptance. And what I do is I weave anecdotes in through every little page, and then I ask the kids questions. Like, there's a section about gratitude, and I go, okay, what are you grateful for? And I get them talking about gratitude and what they're grateful for. And then I tell them how it's a magic ability when you think about something you're grateful for. And I say, how do you feel here? And they will go, oh, I feel amazing. And great. So I get them all interacting like that. And then once I've done that, and I go through that whole presentation, and then I finish that particular presentation off with a drawing exercise where I get them to invent something. So this is something that in my first book, Being You Was Enough, one of the last bits was about creativity and about using your imagination. And so I thought, what a great way to round off is getting these kids to have an invention. And so they get to draw it, and they get to come up at the end and they talk about their invention, and I interact with them and ask them more questions about it and stuff like that. So the session goes for around about 40 to 50 minutes, depending on how many kids there are. And literally by the end of it, they've all excited. They're all talking, they're all chattering, and I know that I've actually got them engaged all the way through. So it's on multiple points that I'm actually getting them interacting. So it's not just me reading a book to them. I mean, this is okay. I have two presentations. The one I've just described is from years 3 to 6, because they're at that age where they can have these slightly adult conversations, and they can talk about the different topics and they actually understand it. But only recently, in the last 2 years or 3 years, I've done a pre-primary to year 2 presentation. And because I realized that the Being You Was Enough one was a little bit too old for the younger kids, and I kept getting asked to do these younger kids, to talk to them. And so what I do with them is I do a full reading of my book, Being Wildly Kind. But what I do is I stand up and I deliver. I don't sit down, I stand up, and I ask the kids questions at each different page. Like there's a page in there about growing a veggie garden and how good it is for the environment and for that. So I ask the kids, what are you growing at home? Who's got a veggie garden? And getting them talking about that. And then there's a page in the book about doing a crazy dance for someone to make them feel happy. And I started out just glossing over that. I think I've got the page here somewhere, because it's like, how silly do you want to look when you do a school presentation? That's the question.
Very silly. That's what they'll love.
I know. So there was this one here about this, the steps to do the crazy dance. And initially, the first few times I did it, I just went, yeah, do a crazy dance for someone, and then move on. And then after a while, I went, okay, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate it myself and go, who wants to see me do the crazy dance? And all the kids scream and go, yay! And then this last year, I went, okay, I'm going to get the entire kids involved, all the kids. So the kids do it with me. So I go, okay, we're going to do this, then we're going to do that. And they just absolutely love it. So when you get about 500 kids all doing the crazy dance, it's a fun, interactive thing. So, and then the drawing exercise at the end of that one is, because it's all about kindness, I talk about self-kindness. So I get the kids to draw something that makes them happy. And I walk them through different, like it could be catching up with grandma, playing with friends, or going to the beach. And then I get them at the end to come up and talk about what makes them happy and stuff like that. Okay. So I've got 2 clear different presentations for the different age groups, but they're all designed to be highly engaging. So I'm getting the kids thinking, getting them talking, getting them discussing things and stuff like that. So
I love that you've got the 2 different age groups of presentations to go with. And so just to clarify, I'm hearing that you don't actually read your story sort of in one go and then do the interaction separately. You're doing it as you're reading the story.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I love
Because
that.
I think the old days of just sitting down reading a book to a group of kids is gone now. You really have to engage with them and ask them questions and get their thoughts on things like that, because kids nowadays, they're on their tablets from when they're 4 and they're acting. So they need something that's going to be a little bit more engaging, a bit more interactive, I think.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. And in terms of pricing, like, is there a standard price set by, I don't know, the ASA or someone like that they recommend you charge for author visits?
Yep. The Australian Society of Authors go to the rates of pay for school visits and stick to them, or just be a little bit either side of what they recommend, but not too much, because it's like an industry standard. We all can quote those prices. The schools know those prices, the libraries know those prices, everyone knows those prices. And if they don't, you can say to them, like, say if you approach a school and you go, oh, look, I want to do a school visit, I want to talk to year 5s, I've got a great presentation, last 45 minutes, it's going to cost you $350 or something like that. And they go, oh, we don't have that much money. And you go, well, this is the Australian Society of Authors, this is the rates we've got, this is the industry standard. And they go, okay. So they'll either book you or they won't. But the thing is don't deviate from that. Stick to that, because we're all trying to stick to that level of pay, because we're all children's authors here. We don't get paid much. So it's nice when we do. And so it's sort of, you don't want to have people going, I'll charge you $50 or I'll charge you $200. It just gets too scattered. I'm a trained copywriter, and I've seen voiceover artists get down to like $20 a radio script when it used to be a standard about $300. And so we're really pricing ourselves in that way out of the market. Whereas with kids authors and presentations, we really should stick to what the Australian Society of Authors says. Okay. Have you done any author visits?
I have. I have. I've done some author visits just for my children's schools.
Yep.
And my mum is a librarian, so at her school as well. And I was doing that for free, I think, because I was, it was a good experience for me to
Yep.
start with as well. I'm a geologist by trade with a law background as well. So I know it's a bit of a strange combo. And I worked in mining law for years. So I felt comfortable sort of speaking to crowds, but when you're talking to children, you're used to, as a parent often, talking to 1 or 2 kids, maybe 3, but a group of children is a little bit different. So I think I found it useful to start out with, I didn't mind volunteering my time, if you like, because it was a good practice ground just to go, okay, I feel comfortable doing this. I can see the interaction points of when they're going to be engaged, and just to build up your confidence in
and look, that's important. Yeah, for when you're first starting out, jump on, do a few ones for free, just to as that training ground, learning how it works, learning how to interact, learning what works and what doesn't work. And you go, well, that joke didn't work, I'll put that one in the bin. That sort of stuff. Yeah, exactly. But there's got to be that point where you go, okay, now I've done 3 free sessions. Now it's time to put value in what you do, and then give that
right.
price. That's the thing. It's valuing what you do and the input that you bring and the inspiration that you bring to the kids and to the school.
Yeah, exactly. And that's fantastic. I love all the advice you've given. I think that'll be so helpful. And just to cover, I guess, everyone who might be listening, there could be illustrators who have been the illustrator of a book. They could do this in the same method, like approach schools.
Yep. There are so many illustrators in WA. They're fantastic. What they do, they approach the schools and they go, I'll do an illustrating project. And the kids all get to illustrate. They all get to create their own designs, and because some of the illustrators have been doing for so long, they've got their own templates. They can just walk in and go, we're going to draw a shark today, or we're going to do this, and they make it fully engaging. They make it so the kids have lots of fun. But again, they go home with something that they've actually created, and that's one of the awesome things.
And that's a really good point. So I think, that with the author visit, to think of something like, not only are they having an experience of listening to a beautiful story, to being inspired by an author and illustrator, but then to take something away that they've created, and like a little learning outcome, if you like, but in a fun gentle way, but something that they can take home and go, oh, I've taken away something from that I can hold and remember or stick on the fridge.
And I always tell the kids, take your worksheets home, stick them on the fridge, so your parents know how smart you are.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Our fridge is covered in artwork.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is have flyers and have information ready to send out to schools. So I've got a 2-page flyer, which is just, it details the kindy talk, or the pre-primary talk, and also the year 3 to 6 talk, and a little bit of a couple of quotes and an image on me. And I just have that as a PDF and as JPEGs. So PDF, I can just send it out to a school. And I've also got it on my website. There's a big page on my website which says 4 schools, virtual visits and incursions. And so everything's on there. Teachers and librarians can just download the information and they can get in contact with me directly from the website. And I've spoken to a lot of librarians who go, you got to make it as easy as possible for them to book you. So you don't want to be hiding your email address at the back end or somewhere, or you don't want to, you want to have your pricing up front. You want to have the email address, your contact details, and the detail of what your presentation is. What's it going to entail?
That's a really good point. And to have that information clear on your website so they can see it. And it's, And another really important point, do you then, in terms of book sales, like as part of an author visit, would you sometimes bring a stock of books, or would you talk to the school about making your books available? And would that be at the time of your author visit, or is that when the book fairs are happening?
For me, I don't know what other people do, but for me, I usually take a swag of books with me, and I've got a form that the the teachers or the admin can send out or send home with the kids. If they want to order books, they can, and then I'll bring the books in with me and I'll have them signed and all that sort of jazz. But that takes a bit of organizing, and my brain doesn't cope well with that. But I do take books with me, so the library can buy them, the librarian can buy them, or the teachers can buy them. But usually they already have my books there. Usually,
Mhm.
that's the idea. But you can take a swag of books and sell them, or you can have an order form that you send out. So when you do your booking, you can say, hey, I've got an order form here. So if the parents want to buy a book, the form goes home with the kids. The parents can fill it out, buy the book, so you get paid, and then you sign them and you bring them in when you do your author visit.
Mhm. That's a
That's
brilliant
it.
idea. Yeah, to
Mm,
send it out then. Yeah.
mm. Are
Oh, that's
you
awesome.
are you with a traditional publisher, or have you self-published, or?
No, I'm self-published. So
Mhm.
I've written 2 children's books, which is Find Your Treasure, which is a magical adventure story.
Love the cover.
This is a junior fiction chapter book,
Yeah.
illustrated by Alison Mutton in Perth, who's one of our amazing Perth illustrators,
Mm.
and My Soul Treasure, which is a picture book.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic. Who did the
Again, illustrated by
illustrations?
Alison.
Alison
Yeah, Alison
illustration.
did both. Yeah, Alison Mutton, and they're just absolutely magical. And I am really honoured because this year I'm in the Margaret River Readers and Writers Festival. So
Woo!
it's incredible. I know. I'm so excited. Um,
Fantastic. So you're going to be doing all the tours of the schools then for 2
I'll
weeks?
be doing all the tours, in the southwest, and then being in the storytelling snug on the weekend of the festival,
Ah, fantastic.
which is fantastic. And everything the advice that you just said has just been so beneficial for me of how to structure those school visits and how to
Mm.
make it really engaging. And then I did think that after I had that experience, and I've kind of almost set up, like you were mentioning, like a template then that you could offer to other schools and to approach, Perth schools and to come up
Mm.
or to different areas, like you said, to go out to the regional, to Kalgoorlie, to Geraldton, down south,
Yeah.
which is really important. So, I'm just so excited to be out there and to be reading. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you have any tips for my picture book. Obviously, I can get through that book in a session, but with a chapter book, when I've read this before, obviously start at the beginning, and I can only get so far into the chapter book. But do you have any tips for chapter book authors of how, is that still the approach? Obviously, you have to start from the start and just make your way.
I would pick your favorite parts from the book. I would go, okay, what are the key themes of the book? Is it about friendship? Is it about adventure or something like that? And then you talk about how that's relevant for you as the author. Like, you've had these friendships as a kid growing up, and I've worked these into the storyline here. Let me read this little passage, and you read the passage about that emphasizes friendship or something. And then you talk about the next topic, and then you get the kids. So what do you think is important about friendship? And you get the kids talking about it. Okay. So therefore you're reading from the book, you're telling a story, an anecdote, and you're getting feedback from the kids, and you're getting their interaction.
That's fantastic, because that's one thing I think for lots of people, that with a longer story, you're not going to be able to get through the whole thing. And sometimes some of the key points that you want them to hear are in the middle, or, some of the.
And so be okay with jumping around. Just go, okay, I'm going to go straight to the middle here, because there's a great bit about someone who lands in a bucket with a poo on their head or something, So it can be that. So you're going, I'm going to read some of my favorite bits from the book. And that's why I always tell the kids with the bits I got in my PowerPoint, these are my favorite pages from the book. Let's have a chat about them. So that sort of thing.
That's really good tip. And I think that was one of the things I was thinking, how, you don't also want to, I guess one point we haven't covered is, pace, and making sure you're not rushing in your speech delivery to the kids, and taking it slowly and speaking in a good pace that they can absorb and listen to.
Yeah, exactly. But think that will happen naturally as you do it. You'll feel whether you're rushing it, or you'll feel whether you're going too slow, because you'll get to the end and go, oh, I didn't get to talk about this. And then you'll go, okay, well, look, I mean, my presentation, my key being used in our presentation has changed so many times over the years, but it's all from learning. It's all from going, okay, well, that didn't work. I've got a new book out. I want to integrate elements of the new book into the same presentation. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, well, that one didn't get it. That joke didn't get a laugh. Oh, shit, I can't bucket that one. But then they'll go, okay, well, that did get a laugh, or that was a great fun, that got them engaged. Let's do more of that. And that you'll find that when you're doing it for the Margaret River Readers and Writers Festival, that because you're doing such an intense 2-week period, what you do on day one will be different from what you do on the last day.
And that's a really good, point. So incorporate your learnings, like when you go from school to school, take away, reflect and go back and change your worksheet or change your presentation.
Yep.
And
Yep.
do most schools, would they have like the setup so that they're expecting a PowerPoint presentation for an author visit as well?
What you do when you first book it or when you're first liaising with them, tell them what you need. So I will need a TV or a projector so I can plug my laptop in to run a PowerPoint presentation. The kids will need their pencil cases and something to lean on. And then I always attach the worksheet because this is the bit of promotion. So I create a worksheet with my illustration on the top right-hand corner. It's a big box, but underneath is my website and the link to buy the books. So when the kids take their worksheet home, the parents see it and go,
That's,
oh, okay.
that's awesome. I love that.
Mm.
It's fantastic.
So you email that and say, can you print off as many copies of this for as many kids? And then usually by the time you get to the school, all the files are there, all the printouts are there, all the kids have got their colored pencils and they're all ready to go. And there's a PowerPoint and go with your entire kit of toolkits. So you've got all your adapters or your HDMI cables, all that sort of stuff in your bag with you. Okay. If you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, obviously.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. And then for people, like if you were doing one, would you recommend like getting to the school a bit earlier or just, general things like that?
I get there around about 20 minutes, 15 minutes early, just so I can get set up and make sure everything works. Because sometimes it's like, okay, this TV is not working. Let's get another TV. Or to find out what space you're in. Because some of them put you in a little classroom, some of them put you in a hall, some of them put you in a in-between space. So you've got to quickly mentally adapt to where you are. And then it's really important for me. I get anxiety. So what I'd like to do is like to spend about 2 minutes owning that space before the kids get there. Just going, this is my space. I'm in charge. So when the kids come in, they know that you are there for them, as opposed to you get intimidated by the kids. Do you know what I mean? So you go, this is
Yes.
my
Yeah, no,
space.
that's
I'm
a
in
really
charge here.
good.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the thing is, if the kids start playing up, I always go, okay, whose show is this? And they go, your show. I said, excellent, thank you. Let's keep going.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's so helpful. And I know that if it's helpful for me, that means it's going to be helpful for so many other authors and illustrators who are listening to your podcast now. And
Yeah.
it's so exciting and
I
inspiring.
want to see and hear about the update of your Margaret River Readers and Writers Festival adventure.
I would
It's going to be great.
love to come back on and maybe we can we'll have another follow-up
That's a great
podcast
idea.
interview.
Yeah.
And I come back and I can tell you my experiences and some of my key learnings and give some tips and tricks or things that worked well for me, things, there's probably going to be some funny stories of things that happened during.
And that's the other, we're going to run out of time shortly. However, this one, remember the funny stories and put them on Facebook afterwards. Okay. Because Norman Jorgensen does it. I do it. A lot of people do it. The funny interaction with kids. Obviously, you don't mention names and stuff like that, but you just have those funny little things because the kids say the darndest things at the most inappropriate times.
Absolutely. I can share like a quick little one already, which is beautiful because my books are all about, they use the analogy that inside our soul, we have treasure. And all of our treasure is our inner strength. So each gemstone and jewel symbolizes an inner strength that a child has. And so it's really beautifully said inside the story. And one of my friends who's a school mum said, one night she was getting a bit stressed. She was pregnant with the second. So as you do, and her eldest said to her, Mum, don't worry. You have the gems inside. There's no need to worry. You have your gems inside. So it was absolutely beautiful to hear. That was from pre-primary. So just to hear that the messages are going, in and they're hearing them and then, they're remembering them.
Kate, thank you very much. I'll check in with you after the festival and see how it's all gone.
I'd love that. Thank you, Josh. I can't wait to report back.
Okay, we'll talk soon. See ya.
Bye.